Right. Oh, recording in progress. So, as a young lady, I faced a few challenges, some at home, some in school, and some with my friends. Good evening and welcome to our 24th Families Grow Together show. My name is Aqua. I am an early intervention practitioner. I support children with language delay, and I also provide training for parents to help them support their children at home. Hi, Nelly. Welcome. And welcome, Portia, our special guest tonight. So we're all going to introduce ourselves, and over to you, Nelly.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to this show. I am Nelly Kwasumi, a transformational life coach and a social worker and a founder of Hand in Hand. We are so delighted to have you on our 24th show tonight. And today we have a special person with us today who is one of the trustee members of Hand in Hand. And she is Portia Tamban. She will introduce herself before we get into our conversation for today.
So good evening, everybody that's watching, that's live with us today. I'm a visitor. I've just been hijacked or kidnapped, I would say.
We don't kidnap. We just get you involved.
I'm a general mental health worker, and I'm happy to participate in the program today.
Thank you very much, Portia. Thank you for gracing our show tonight. And we know that we're going to learn from you. We always want as many people as possible to come and join us so that we can share experiences, because all we want to do is learn from one another and share what we have learned as well. So tonight we have a special topic. Now, we are in our 40s, going close to the halfway line of what I do not know, but I still feel like I'm a teenager sometimes. So today we're looking at the challenges that we faced growing up as young girls. And we grew up in Cameroon. We now live in the UK, where the teenagers here face different kinds of challenges from those that we faced growing up. And so we are going to look at those today. Our focus will be schooling, so the kinds of subjects that we chose at school, what kind of orientation we had growing up as girls to be able to choose the subjects that we finally chose. We're going to look at social interaction, how we made friends, what kind of friends we had. Did we have boyfriends and girlfriends at that age? What did our parents say? We're going to look at family life as well. How did we grow up in a home in Cameroon? How was family life like for us as young girls? So those are the three main areas we're going to look at today. So if you're watching this and you would like to join the conversation, please put comments in the comment box and we will discuss your contributions as we go along. So Nelly, I'll come to you. What was it like growing up as a young lady in Cameroon?
Well, thanks for that question, Aqua. It was nice and not nice. So starting off, when I finished primary school, I was told that I was going to a boarding school. At that time, it was a privilege to go to a boarding school, and I was really proud to go to a boarding school because it was we were in the village, so I had to go to Bamenda, which is a city. I was so delighted because my grandparents lived in the city. But when I went there, the experience was awful. When my cousin dropped me off in the at the dormitory and she left, that was when reality kicked in. And I was just on my own with strangers everywhere. And then the next morning at like 5 o'clock, there was this knock on the door and we were told that everyone had to get up. And I was like, how comes 5 o'clock? It's still dark. And we were told that that is school life. And that first week was awful because we had to wake up every day at 5 o'clock, 5 a.m. And then weekends, we had to wake up at 4 o'clock, 4 a.m. to do cleaning and all whatnot. So it wasn't nice. And like the first 2 weeks, all my underwears were stolen. So I had just one that I would wash in the morning and squeeze it in my towel and wear it because I couldn't go around with it. So that was reality for me that, oh, how can, and yeah, so that was a side that I didn't like. But on the other side, I found it really, really hilarious because who they think I was extremely quiet. I could stay for the whole day without talking, and I was very comfortable with that. But what I was very fond of doing was observing people and making comments in my head. So I observed people and I really knew how I predicted how they could react. So then I was very selective and picky with my friends, or those I wanted to be my friends. But on the other side, the friends were like, I am too reserved. Probably I have something to hide. But inside me, I felt that, yes, because no one really knew me. They didn't know how to like hurt me. And yeah, that was just school life. But then we used to have people called big, like seniors in school. The senior that I had, I will always remember her. I've not been in contact with her, but she was called Sister Gladys. And she was really nice to me because I was really tiny, tiny, and lanky. She always considered me, and I got lots and lots of exceptions. So the challenges was, like I've mentioned, really had to adapt to the school life. But with my academics, I did my best because my dad decided to enroll me in a commercial school. So I did secretariat duties, that's typing, which till now I'm so proud because I use my typing skills, and Aqua knows that because I beat her to that. So,
Definitely,
yeah.
definitely. Thank you very much, Deli. That's interesting. You've given us quite a broad answer, but I'll go now to Portia and ask her, how was it like growing up in Cameroon as a young teenage girl?
As a young teenage girl, it was really like kind of sweet and then tough. Tough because my dad was so strict. And, and my dad, the least thing you do, he will lay you very well.
What do you mean by lay?
So it will beat you, it gives you whip very well. And yeah, so it just makes me like, I was very into myself. Like I will not be, if I go out, I'm not like, I'm so shy, I'm so like scared and everything. So in primary school, that was it. And my secondary school, I had to change a lot of school because of health condition. We're looking for where actually I would leave from one and go to another school from two. They were looking for where actually it would be better for me to stay there because I had lots of health challenges. And so actually on the primary school, it was a bit, the secondary school, I was happy because I'm leaving my dad and mom. I'm running away from them. I'll be somewhere else in the dormitory where at least they are not there to be looking at me what I'm doing. But you still have that, no matter what, whether you join other people, they are flying there, they are doing this, you will not be able to do it because you know when the information reaches your dad, it's something else when you go for holidays. I was still very shy and it made it so really, really difficult. I started coming out of it when I was finished and out of life. And most of my friends were boys, not girls. Because girls, they will always gossip and then like fighting. So I prefer to be with the boys. The boys were always, they were supporting me. They were very supportive.
Thank you, Portia. That is interesting. You've brought up some topics that we're going to explore a bit later. Right. As for myself, growing up in Cameroon, it was, I cannot say that it was bitter, but it was good. But we had challenges like everybody else. Growing up as a child, we were quite comfortable, I would say. And I didn't really understand much struggle until after I went to secondary school. When I went to go past the common entrance, did my exams into entrance into schools, I got a place in the boarding school, and my dad told me, well, he hasn't got money to pay me school fees in the boarding school. So I had to go to a government school, like a day student. So I stayed home to go to school, and we'll go to school every day. But apart from that, my family, growing up in school was fine. And I did well in school, so I didn't have any issues with that one. But generally, teenage years were predominantly good. Obviously, there were challenges, but we'll talk about those later. Now, my next question, Nelly has already answered this one somewhat. She said she went to a commercial school. And so what I would like to ask is whether you had any orientation. Did you just do the commercial subjects because your father sent you to a commercial school, or did you have any say about the subjects that you picked when you were studying?
Okay, at that time, when you went to school, they had that curriculum. You just do what was there. But I knew beforehand when I was going to high school or to college what I was going to study, because my mom used to be the Secretary General for a local council. So I knew that I was going to study something that I'll be like my mom. So that one gave me an idea of what I was going in for. And my mom had a typewriter, not computer. There were no computers at that time. So my mom had a typewriter that I was using. So I knew exactly what I was going to school for. And when I went, like a typewriter, that was the best thing that I ever studied. So yeah, in a way, I had an orientation.
Okay, that's great. What about you, Portia?
Actually, like when we went to secondary school, the way they were doing it, they've told us from when I went to Form 2, told us you have to do English and maths. So when I'm saying it in this country, it's not like it's just a normal thing. It was English and maths, and any school I go to, they were really strict on maths, and I hated it all my heart. I'll always dodge, I'll always jump through the window to run away from my classes. Maths, English, and French, they were always like too serious. And French was one of my best. English was okay, but maths, and that is how I continuously doing it, trying my best with the maths. And those were my successful subjects, ordinary level, which I would say thanks to the teachers, not my parents, but thanks to the teachers, because what they were doing to us, the punishment, at least you would not like to go through the kind of punishment they were giving. You would not like to go through it, so you have to sit in the class and you do it forcefully. If you fail the first time, the second time, if you fail, punishment. So you go by punishment. If you don't pass, so you are forced to. We had to do it. It was interesting because, like we are telling our kids now, this subject you have to do is for your good. You have to read. That's what they were telling us. It's for our good. And we don't see them that time. It's now that we're going, that we know that actually they were doing the best for us that we didn't know.
Thank you, Portia. That is so true. English, maths, English, where I went to a bilingual school, so English and French, first of all, were compulsory subjects. Everybody had to do English and French because obviously Cameroon is a bilingual country. It's a bilingual country, and as such, there are two official languages, English and French, and you have to study these two in school, in addition to maths. Right, so for me, when I went to secondary school, I would say around Form 3, that is when you start choosing your subjects. And I went to a grammar school, and as such, we had to do GCE, yeah, or GCSE as they call it here, GCE O levels. And so from Form 3, you start choosing whether you're doing science or arts. My parents didn't really say anything to us about orientate us about what to choose. They left it to us because my parents were like, you go to school, you study, you pass your exams, and that's it. They didn't chase us to go and read or whatever. They just assumed us that we would learn. And if you're not reading in the evening, go to bed. No TV. You know, after a certain hour, after 7 p.m., if you're not reading, go to bed. That's it. So they expected us to study and pass as it was. So I chose to do the sciences, not because I think I just did it because most of my friends were doing it really. Because my best subjects were English and French, but I did sciences. I did all the subjects that needed doing. Not necessarily, because even today, I love reading. I loved French. French was one of my best subjects. So I just did science because most of my friends were doing it. Thankfully, I passed in there, but here we are doing something completely different from what I actually studied in school. So you raised something there, Portia, about discipline, being punished if you do not pass. Now, I want us to talk about discipline in our schools because we're going to come to the English system after this. I want to talk about discipline in our schools. Growing up, what was discipline like? What kind of punishment did you get and for what kind of crime? I'll come to you first, Nelly. Say, for example, if you were talking in class or if you had not done your homework, what kind of punishment did you get from school? Or what was the crimes that we committed that we had to do punishment for? And what were the punishments?
So in school, in primary, the kind of punishment that we used to have, the common one, was to carry blocks. Had to carry blocks. So I've just realized that was child labor because we had to carry blocks for people building houses. Probably was contracted by the head teacher, headmaster, I don't know. Yeah, but that was a corporal punishment. Classes will go and carry a number of blocks you had to. So yeah, but I remember, I always say it, and I remember once, I think I was like 8 years old. During break, I went with one of my friends to see the waterfall. And I left my school bag because it was lunchtime. And I left my school bag because I was so excited to go and see the waterfall. So,
Primary school.
yeah, in primary school. So when I came back, because of that excitement, I didn't even remember that I had a school bag. So I went to the waterfalls, and that my friend said we would come back when break is over. But then by the time we came back, it was the last period. and then I remember that, oh, where is my school bag and all my books? It was gone. It was gone. And I was like, how do I tell my dad? Because my dad was a teacher. So he had this routine that every weekend he will call for me and my siblings and go through our books to see that we are on track. So the Sunday came because it used to be Sunday evenings. When my bag got lost, I used to beg for papers from my siblings, but after some time, they said, they've been giving me too much. So anyway, behold, that Sunday came and my dad came and looked at both of my siblings, their books, their bags, everything was intact. He came to me. I picked a carrier bag with pieces of papers and I gave him. He just looked at me and said, "Nay, where are your books?" I said, "Papa, I don't have books."
Your voice actually came out.
But the voice was, I said, "I don't have books." So he said, he didn't even ask what happened. So he said, go to bed. And I was like, you just tell me to go to bed like that. So within me, I was like, no. I'm sure he's planning to do something. Anyway, woke up Monday morning. We used to wake up in the morning, knock on my parents' door, go and greet them before we leave. But that day, I didn't have the courage. So I stood outside their door and I just greeted and I said, I'm going, ran to school. As I sat in school, one pupil said, oh, Nelly, your dad is here. No, because I call my dad Papa. He said, Nelly, Papa is here. And my heart sank. And I was like, oh, I knew that he was planning something. So after a few minutes, a teacher came and said, I was needed in the headmaster's office. I was just crying. I went there, my dad was there, the head teacher was there. And my dad said, tell the head teacher where your school bag is. I explained to my headmaster. My dad was just sat there quietly. Then what he did was, after I had explained, he said, if it gets lost, what do I think my punishment is? Anyway, to cut it short, my dad had bought a new school bag with my books, my pen, my reader, everything new. And he gave me. And then he went. I was really excited that I had a school bag with everything that I needed in school. But it dawned on me when it was home time that I was going home to meet my dad. And then I went. When I went, I greeted him. I said, okay, good afternoon. And he was like, oh, good afternoon. How was it? And I was like, are you for real? I said, you just bought me a new school bag and now you're making as if there was nothing. So anyway, to him, he was just behaving the way he used to behave. But me, I was thinking, no, I'm sure he's just planning punishment. And that was it. And the biggest lesson I learned from that day is not to lose anything that I have. Until today, I still have it.
You're very careful, eh? You're very careful.
I know I've sent the punishment from my school and also at home. So that was one of the biggest punishment. I consider it punishment, but it's my dad just doing his own thing. And yeah.
I think there was punishment, psychological punishment right there.
Yeah.
But because you were expecting maybe corporal punishment, or maybe you dry clean the floor for the next 1 week, or something like that, or wash the dishes for everybody, but didn't come. And you're like, so you tortured yourself.
I tortured myself.
To be
That was
successful,
enough.
like Nelly, like
What's more than enough
expecting some whipping, but it didn't. Okay, so your dad did something that maybe we should all learn to use with children today. Just leave them and just behave as if nothing has happened, and let them think about what they have done. And like you said, you learned your lesson and you haven't lost anything since.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. What about you, Portia? What was the kind of punishment that was meted out to you in school if you did something wrong?
I had punishment both ways. In school, when you do something, teachers, I would say they were taking advantage because needs, let me say, some brooms, these brooms that we use to sweep. They need it in their homes, or their family need that type of thing. They give you punishment to do that. They'll say you make 2 bundles or 3 bundles for your punishment. We'll have to go because that was in Victoria those days. We'll have to go to the palm tree where they grow the palms. We'll have to go there. We'll fetch for that thing, peel it out, clean it, look for the container to put all the brooms inside. That's punishment. We'll go away like that. You will not be able to attend classes. You are doing that outside. So that's one punishment. Or sometimes the teacher will send it to their homes. You go and fetch water and fill a container. That is punishment that they were, I think, really, it was not supposed to be like that. We're supposed to be punished around the school environment. They know they were taking us to their homes to do certain things. And then sometimes they'll bring, how do we call egusi? What's the other name for it? Pumpkin seed. They'll bring them in school. They'll bring a lot. Then they keep you in a class. Then you have to finish all of it. while classes are going
You
on.
have to
Then
remove the shelf.
when that happens, sometimes they don't let our parents know that that is what has happened. And you will be scared to tell your parents at home that you could not attend this class because you were doing this. They will ask you the reason. So it's another punishment you will get from home.
Mm.
And there are certain times that you do something, they send words to your parents. Then that punishment, now you receive another punishment from home after they give you punishment in school. So it was not easy. It was so, in a way, then in secondary school, our punishment sometimes was really hard. We had a new site they were building, so we have to dig the stones. You are late for school, you go and dig that stone. Very big one, you go and dig it. When you don't pass well, they put a certain mark. If you don't reach, you are not half of that, you'll dig stone. So you have days that you are digging stone for each crime or anything that you have, that you commit, any crime you commit, or anything that you do in school that's not right, they must give you something to do. Either you are digging stone, either you are sweeping the whole school, either you are making some garden behind the school, things like that. So it wasn't easy. It was too strenuous for you are to study and then do all those type of work. So it makes you think twice when you are going to school. You try to be on the straight line, but it's not really easy to be on the straight line, because like as a teenager, you have that thing in your head. You have to try some little experiences, to do some kind of adventures. You don't do it, then you say you didn't pass through that age. Like it will not be sweet. So sometimes when we look at our children doing some certain things, we go mad and do this. But when you compare the punishment that they were giving us and what we are seeing now, we cannot even do. Where we'll just say, well, the world is evolving. So what can we do? Nothing.
Yeah, that's very true. That's very true, because
Yeah.
the punishment, when you were talking, I just remembered that one of the punishments that I experienced, and it's very traumatic, and sorry to anyone who will find this very traumatic. When I was in boarding school, we were punished by the senior students, a lot of punishment, because we found out that where the college was built was a cemetery. And if say punishment was to dig a pit, and sometimes we dug pits. I mean, going to start digging a pit at 4 a.m. in the morning. There was a time I remember my class were digging this pit, and we found a skull in one of the pits that we were digging. The boarding house master was a biology teacher. So we had to scream and call for him. He came, pick up the skull and took it to the science lab. So those are the kind of traumatic punishments that we were given. And the senior students were beating us. Sometimes they would pour water on the floor, and we will lay on that water on the floor, and they will whip us with cane. Sometimes the places will get swollen, and that was corporal punishment. And they took the pride, that ego, that they are the seniors. It was really traumatic, and all this punishment, none of the teachers knew about it, even the boarding master, because it was done covertly. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that. You've raised quite a few things up. You both have raised quite a few things. For me, growing up in primary school, the main punishment for us was picking paper, sweeping the floor, sweeping, the schoolyard, and corporal punishment. So especially when we were in class 6, the last final year, if you come, when I was in primary school, when you come late, depending on the number of minutes that you come late, they give you 1 cane for every minute. So if you come 5 minutes late, you have 5 canes. You have come 10 minutes, you have 10 canes. One day I came I think it was about 12 minutes late. So we had French that day. The French teacher was going to give us corporal punishment. And I took a few of the canes. I think I took about 4. And I was screaming and crying. And there was this girl in our class. She was older, because when we were growing up, there were, house helps from some rich families. They used to send them to school as well, just to do first school living certificate. So this girl was one of my friends' house help, and she was in our class, in same class as us. And she was, she asked the French teacher if she could take part of my punishment. And the French teacher said yes. She went, they gave her 6 canes. And then the French teacher came back and said she would still give me my canes.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, I cried that day. I cried. And then another punishment was kneeling on the ground. In front of our class, 6th class, there was pebbles. There were pebbles, little, rocks. And they'll ask you to kneel there for like 10 minutes on those pebbles. And that was one of the punishments. Another one was picking the pin. Love picking the pin. So you're picking the pin for like 10 minutes, 20 minutes, and you're there, you're dangling up there with, and you're like, some of these teachers were wicked. That's what I'm going to say. So in secondary school, like for Portia, there was digging of stumps. There was obviously clearing of grass because we had fields with very tough grass. So one of the tools that you buy at one of your school equipment is a cutlass or a hoe. We cut grass. I remember when I was in high school, I was in boarding school in Kasbambili. We went one evening, we all went out to sports bar, and they came and did roll call in the dormitory. And we all faced discom. Now, my dad was very popular. So one of the people of the disciplinary council people was my dad's friend. By the time they finished discom, my dad already knew the story. So when I went for weekend, my dad said, "How come you were in discom?" I'm like, everybody was going out, and if we only stayed, only a few of us, they could come and rob us and rape us in the dormitory. So we were advised by the opposites to girls that no, everybody has to come. Otherwise, if you stay in the dormitory, you're in danger. And that was it. But you know what punishment they gave us? We started a new farm. There was a field of elephant grass. We had 12 days. 12 days, elephant grass, you clear it, and then you make the farm. And they planted corn. But you know that we ate that corn now. We said we cannot work for free. We planted a whole hill of corn. When we were writing GCE, we'll go and harvest the corn and come and cook it in iron buckets in the dormitory with a coil. So yes, even though we were punished, we also had fun studying in high school. So we talked about schooling and our subjects and orientation and the subjects that we picked. And now we talked about discipline. Now compared to the children here in the UK, we all have teenage children. And we all know what their challenges are, or some of the challenges that they are willing to tell us about. How does that compare with what we faced in Cameroon? Nelly.
I think there's a massive gap because the punishments that we had in Cameroon, we knew that they were not right. And now with our children, we know that giving them the same punishment is not right. And especially in the English system, there's a lot of, or we have come to learn about human rights. And back in Cameroon, probably it was existing at that time because it was implemented in 1948 or so, but we were not aware of it. But now we really know that we can help our children by knowing how we give them consequences. We've changed it from punishment to consequences. So they still face consequences when they behave in a way that they are not meant to. But I will not say it's anything compared to what we have been through. And especially when we know that, especially from research, that punishment doesn't help our children to grow, or even us, because if they're reflecting on the punishment we had, it's not really helping us that much, because we have a lot of, I would say, us Africans who grew through that system of punishment and corporal punishment. We have lots and lots of emotional trauma that we are still experiencing now, and we will not want to intentionally impose those on our children, especially with the vast information that we have, and is no way compared to what we face as teenagers in Cameroon.
Thank you, Nelly. That is so true. What would you say, Portia, to that?
The same thing, because when we compare it, we just come to realize that we're undergoing torture back home, both from our parents and the teachers. Oh, they traumatize us. So at least coming to the Western world, I think it has broadened our minds, and then we understand that certain things that they did to us affected us in a way. If we do it to our children too, and we even cannot do it because where we are, it's not allowed. They really follow the human rights. And back home, we in Cameroon, we were not, they didn't care. And I would say they don't still care, although the school, there are lots of changes now. You can't beat children the way they were beating them back home. You can't beat people, children in school anyhow again. You can't give them those type of punishment, what I went through, you can't give to children, sending them to work in your house and things like that. It can't happen anymore. So there have been lots of changes as for bet compared to here. It's still like very different, because you will still see some people undergoing some kind of punishment still back in Cameroon, but as compared to here, you cannot that kind of punishment.
Yes, thank you for that. And you said quite a few things there, which reminded me of what happened to my daughter, because Sunita, I left her in Cameroon when I came over here, and she went to a boarding school. And when she came and she was telling me her experience, I almost died. And like, how do I get my hands on these teachers? Like, seriously. She talked about how they beat her until her hands were swollen, her bum was swollen, she couldn't even sit on the chair. And I'm like, what? You know, when there is nothing you can do, and the child is telling you how they suffered. And it was like, it was just killing me inside, but there was nothing I could do. There was absolutely nothing I could do. But I hear that a lot of those things have been changed now. And that if you beat somebody's child, you can be sued for it. And I thank God for that. But that notwithstanding, some of these things helped us to grow into the people that we are today, because irrespective of whether they were good or bad or predominantly traumatic, we have turned out right to a certain extent. And we have learned from what we went through, and know now that we cannot do that to our own children. I've got a younger brother and younger sister, and I used to beat them as well. So it's not as if I didn't do some of those things to my siblings as well. So I hold my hands up to say I beat on my little siblings just because I could as well. But then the environment, you find yourself and you do what is done in the environment. And when I learned about all what, when I reflected back, I had to call my little sister and apologize to her that, look, I am so sorry about all the things that I did to you when you were younger, because I didn't know any different. So it's not as if it's only them, some certain people who do it. Like there's this psychological, what do you call, experiment. I think it's called, what's his name? Billings experiment or something like that, where they ask people to in the scientific experiment, they're asking people to inflict pain on other people. They keep doing it and they keep doing it, you know. So if put in a certain environment, you're more likely, there is a possibility that you behave like every other person because of conformity, you know, and group think, because you are in the environment and you do what the majority of the people in the environment do. But that doesn't excuse anything that is done that is wrong.
Yeah, I think just to add to that, I mean, you know, you said something that we have gone through what we went through and to be the people we are today. And it's because we have worked on ourselves. I don't know if it's because of the work I do, but there are lots and lots of adults who are still traumatized by their experiences in teenage years, because some of them, like you said, because everyone was doing it, they to do it, that conformity, that is the only way they knew. And some of them, as we speak, still impose those on their children.
Yeah.
They themselves are not happy because they knew they were traumatized by it. But because it's the only way that they feel they can be in control, they use it on their children. And the children are experiencing the same thing that they experience, and even more, because they've not gone through that cycle to overcome the traumas, because it's still there. And I see it a lot. So I think like what I do is raise awareness that because it's been going on that way doesn't mean that it has to continue. It has to be that point where you need to put a stop, but then you need to have that awareness first to know that the way you felt is the same way your children or others will feel, and the impact will be similar. So there's always a time when you need to break that cycle by realizing the impact here.
Thank you, Nelly. That's so true. When you said that, I just remembered a friend who gave us this testimony. I think it was a couple, 2 or 3 weeks ago, or about a month ago. We have this Bible study that we do every Sunday with our classmates. And this girl had gone to PSS, Mancon. And she talked, I don't know how this came up, but they started talking about what they faced when they were young in boarding school. I'm telling you that this girl was traumatized. And she said, because I didn't go to first cycle boarding school, but my elder sister did. And she came and told us the stories. This girl said that one day, because they had bigs, older girls that way, somebody gave her a plate to take and go and get her food. She forgot that plate in the dormitory. When she went up, when she went to the refectory, and the girl was sitting there and she didn't have her plate, she went to go get threatened her. So she went to go back to the dormitory to get it. And the refectory and the refectory prefect called her. I said, "Oh, where are you going? What's happening?" She told her. I said, "Oh," he struck her cheek like, "Oh, you forgot the plate." And then without even realizing, he slapped her. And she said she fell a few feet away. And she said she must have blacked out because she couldn't even understand what happened to her. And she said she got up, held her dress, and started running to the dormitory to get. She said she made a vow that when she will be in Form 4, Form 5, she is going to kill somebody's child. She made a vow. And so her saving grace was her mother. She said she didn't know how her mother knew that she had made that vow. Because when she went to Form 5, the day that she was going, her mother said to her, because obviously her mother knew all the trauma that they had gone through, because they went and told, and she was with her sister. She said that they stole her sister's mattress, and she went and reported. She had begged her sister that, no, don't tell, because they're going to kill us in that dormitory. She went and told. And her parents came, and there was trouble in school. So their punishment was like, so when she was going to Form 5, her mom called her and sat her and told her that, you know what? I know all the trauma that you went through when you were in Form 1. I want you to be kind to the children in Form 1. She said she almost fainted. She stood there looking at her mother like this. She didn't want to respond. Her mom said, promise me that you'll be kind to those children. Promise me. Hey, she said that she just promised just because. And then she went to school and she saw the kids, how tiny they were. He said, she doesn't know, it must have been God, because the evil that she was planning, she would have killed somebody's child. And so when you talked about people being traumatized, this girl is over in Canada. She's got children of her own. And she was talking about this thing and still feeling all the pain. It came back fresh. When you remember these things, you can relieve that. So yes, like you said, if work isn't done, then people stay traumatized for years and years and years and years. So thank you for
Actually, I have an example. The lady is here in this country. When we were back home in secondary, that girl was very wicked. She was very wicked. She punished us. She could put sand on the floor. We would have to crawl on that sand, just put our knee on the floor, and then we are walking. If you make like you want to fall, she will whip you. And she was so wicked. I remember when my cousin was here, and I told my cousin when I saw her and the lady, I said, be very careful because your feet are not balanced here. This lady can set you up. This lady is so weak. My cousin took it to her and told her that I said, I'm jealous of her relationship with her, told her that I said she was very wicked while in school. So she confronted me on the phone anyway. And she said, oh, it's not me. Maybe it's the other girl that had the same name with me. It's not me that was doing whatsoever. I didn't want to say anything. Because I'm actually, when I see that girl, the way my heart just goes. And then she did the same thing. Like, she didn't torture my sister, but she tortured her in a way. Didn't torture her physically, I would say. But you know this condition, this situation my sister was under. Then you went and reported her. So, I mean, that was still the same thing. You still have that thing. So that girl, every time I go out and I see that girl, I don't like to greet her at all. I don't like to talk to her. But when she sees me, she must call me and then smile with me and talk. I'll just answer for the sake of, I'll not say carry my face outside and be doing this, but I'll answer. But every time I see her, my heart beats fast in a way. And I'm like frightened or like scared. I just look at her like a witch. I look at her. She was really extremely wicked, honestly. She was.
One thing that we need to learn to do is we have to learn to forgive. Like the girl said, if you have the opportunity, that girl who recounted the story, she had the opportunity to speak to one of the girls, and she talked to the girl and said, "This is what you did to me, and this is how I felt then." And the girl apologized and apologized, but she said she still cannot have that kind of interaction with her openly because that pain is still there, and she still, every time she sees her, she remembers. So it takes a while, and we forgive to relieve ourselves, and not even for the other person, because if we carry the people in our hearts, then we carry the burden with us, you know. But we need to learn to release the people who have hurt us. It's not easy, but
yeah, I think that's really, really important, because we need to start first. It does not necessarily mean that you meet the person and say you forgive them. Forgiveness starts from you. Forgive yourself first. Forgive the person for what they did, because they did it for a reason, probably to revenge from their own, whatever it is. But the pain and the trauma that you went through, you need to release yourself by letting go, because we hang on to hurt that hurt us the more. So it's to personally try to release that. And then, like Aqua said, if you meet this person, it doesn't mean that you'll be best friends with them or talk and laugh with them. Don't hold any grudges against them. Just see them like they were doing whatever they did to release their own trauma too. Because that one, you will feel free. When you see them, you will not have like that shock that, oh, I've seen this person. Because if not, each time you see them or each time you think about them, you have that fright, because it's still there in you. You are still holding on. You've not let go. So it's for you to let go of it, because people behave for various reasons. And mostly people don't intentionally want to hurt you because they want to hurt you. It's for a reason that they want to inflict that pain on you. But most of the time, you, the receiver, you don't even have a clue why that person is inflicting that pain on you. So it's for you to let go because you don't need to be going through that all the time.
Yeah, hurting people hurt people, as Ismail always say, hurting people hurt people. And if you are not good within yourself, the tendency is that you're going to inflict that pain on somebody else. So they may be traumatized in one way or another, and somebody may have traumatized them as well, and they're paying back to the wrong people. So unfortunately, that is part of life. That is the life that we, the world that we live in. And so we have only touched on one thing, schooling, and we've done an hour. It looks like we're gonna have to talk about social interaction and family life on another show. But one thing that I wanted to bring up today was the discipline that our children face in schools here. Now, schools have their behavioral policies, which are supposed to be implemented. And sometimes, if your child is a truant, the parent is the one who is punished. What do you think about that as parents of children who are teenagers? Yes, we know about detention and reflection rooms and things like that, because as Nelly and I will work with families who have children who are not in mainstream school anymore because they don't want to go to school and they go into special provisions. But sometimes parents are taken to court for their children not going to school. How do you make a teenager go to school? Do you drag them and put them in the teacher's hands? What do you do?
Yeah, Aqua, I think that one, for me, I think it is over years of experience that I would say, if your teenager doesn't want to go to school, there is a reason. And if you, the parent, that's calm down, because most of the time, if parents know that their child is refusing to go to school, they know that the parents will get that notification from school that their child's attendance has dropped, is on whatever percent, and then they start sending out letters to the parent. And no parent wants to get that phone call from school. So I would say as parents is to calm down those nerves, because children easily see when we are upset. Ask the child, because if a child doesn't want to go to school, there is always a reason why they don't want to go to school. If your child doesn't want to explain to you, the parent, why they don't want to go to school, find somebody or ask the child whom she feels comfortable to express what is going on in school. And then they talk about it. Because if you don't find out what the reason is, then it'll keep accumulating. Because it will get bigger and bigger because of what the child is thinking about. But I would say find out, because there's a reason why that child doesn't want to go to school. And sometimes if you hear the reason, to you as a parent, you'll say, but that's something very small. But to the child, it's massive. And the impact on that child can cost them their future if they end up not going to school. Even those at the referral units, because it is from presenting difficult or challenging behaviors in school or in their mainstream schools that they are sent to a referral unit, or they have exclusions and things like that. But behaviors, like we know, starts with the thought, the feelings, and then the behavior. So the behavior is the last stage. But unfortunately, that's the first thing we see. The thought and the feelings is not seen because it's in an individual's head, but the behavior, everyone can see the behavior. So if we avoid focusing on the behavior to get the things underneath, then we will be helping our children and supporting our children to be the real children, or to be themselves, their real selves.
Thank you for that.
I'll just ask this question again. Cases that you ask, you talk to your children. My colleague was complaining. they've tried talking to each other, their two daughters, they are twins. They've tried talking to them, they don't want to go to school. They've tried that people to come and talk to them, they don't know what to do. So they've complained, they've gone to the school to try to find out whether there's a particular thing. And the two of them just decided that they don't want to continue school. They just started like they want to do homeschooling and things like that. And because the government or whosoever sending letters to them that they have to pay some money because they were thinking like we've taken children out and going on holidays with them. So we're like, she was asking how to advise. Yeah, I don't know anything regarding that, but what I just can you contact those people that give you sending you letters and tell them about it, because you can't force these teenagers, you can't pull them, force to take them. You can only talk to them, and you can't. So I think she went. I don't know who she contacted, and so they've withdrawn the money. They've asked her not to pay the money, and they've asked her not to go to court anymore. But they'll solve it. I don't know how they want to do it. They have to dance to those teenagers what they want. They'll just dance to it, and they will try to tell them that they'll take them away from their parents for a bit. So, and let them feel free somewhere and see what actually they want. So I don't know how it works.
I think there I'll just say I had a case. I was working with a teenager, and this teenager had not been in school for 2 years. So when I was assigned that case, she had been sent to a professional school that she was not attending. So the first day I went into his home, the child was just sat next to the mom, and she was just looking at me, like looking at me as if she was not looking at me. And then I was sat opposite her because that's how I like to sit, so I can be seeing them fully. So me too, when I noticed that she was looking at me as if she was not seeing, that's the same way I was looking at her as well. And then I was just talking, but from time to time, I'll ask her a question, but I knew that she won't answer. And I kept on asking her to make her know that she is part of the conversation and she is very important. So I was there for, I think, close to 30 minutes. And then I said something and she answered. When you are quiet for such a long time and there are many things going on in your head and you want to speak, it just comes out with a lot of force. That's how it just came out with a lot of force. And I was really, I easily get so excited. And I was like, oh, yeah. So then bit by bit, she started talking and I was like, you know what? I don't know you, but I know something about you, that you've got a lot of potential. But I don't know what is happening that for 2 years you are not going to school and things. And then it was like, I just popped the champagne and things were just coming out from her mouth. And her mom was like, she was really surprised because her mom said they have changed social workers and she would just there. Sometimes she will not even be there. So sometimes is to find a way to get young people to engage, because there is something. And because I think everyone has their own way of working, my own approach that works with me is I know that every individual has some good, has potentials. So I go through that route and ask them. So that helped this girl, though she did not go back to school, but she agreed to a private tutor and she was engaged. So she had to sit at home and write her GCSE, because prior to that, letters had been sent to her mom, because imagine 2 years she was enrolled in a school, but she was not attending. She didn't even leave the house to go to school. So they kept giving those letters. But I think like what Portia said, if as a parent, you get those letters and you contact whoever the letter comes from to explain, they will consider that you, the parent, you are putting in effort. Because in most cases, when parents receive the letters with the fines and the penalties, they just leave them. Some just go and pay. So like that, it shows that the parent is taking side with the child. But if you tell the people that you are struggling and you need help, like Portia has said, yes, social services has been involved, which is why they'll take the children away from the parents, because it could be that the parents are the situation that they might be doing something that the children feel uncomfortable, but because they look up to their parents as the only support that they have, they don't want to get their parents in trouble, and they don't want to say what the problem is. So when they are taken away, children's services will make them feel comfortable, and then to the extent that they can express what they are struggling with, and then they get the support that they need.
Thank you for that, Nelly. Those are two really extreme cases, but these things do happen. And there is one thing that puzzles me about this policy of this transit policy, about the government taking the parents to court because the teenager is not going to school, or sending it. Some people end up in prison because their children don't go to school, which is not right. Personally, I don't think it is right, because there is nothing you can do to drag a teenager and take them to school. We have control over ourselves. We do not have control over another human being. We may put all the support systems in place, but if that child refuses to go to school, there is nothing that you can do about it. They may get out of the house and say that they're going to school and never arrive. You may take that child and go and drop in school, and they still leave the school premises. Another one now is the school's own to deal with the fact that that child has gone out of the school. But there are certain things that we can try. Like you said, talking to the children, giving them opportunity to express themselves, removing them from the environment. Maybe the environment is what is making them struggle. So, but if you've tried all these things, it doesn't work, what can you do?
You know, I think if you notice that your children, because you've said something, if the children leave their homes to go to school but never arrive school, that's a different case. I know that fully well, because I worked on a case and two brothers, they were doing exactly the same thing.
My very junior brother did that.
Their mom knew that the children were going to school, because in the morning she'll wake them up, they'll get ready, put on their uniform, and out of the door they'll go. But then she kept receiving letters, but unfortunately for this mom, she is dyslexic. So they were sending her letters and she didn't know what the letters were. And then she would give the same children to read the letters to us. So she never understood the content of the letter. Oh. So when the case was allocated to me, I went there and I was like, what is going on? And then it was then she told me that she explained her situation, that the children leave the house every morning and on time, but she doesn't know, because I explained to her why the cases has been allocated to me. And then she was really surprised that, but where do they go to?
Yeah.
So because I brought up the issue that, listen, I took it back to my manager, I said, listen, has anyone ever considered that this mom is dyslexic and she doesn't even know the content of the letters that have been sending to her for several months? And then I was working with this mom and I would make sure I go there, explain what the issues were, because she was not aware of the issues. She wasn't aware of the issues. But when you ask for help, and this was a struggle because I got other agencies involved, and the downside of it was that most of the agencies work on voluntary basis. So if they do like 3 attempts to get involved and they don't get involved, the case will be closed and they'll say non-engagement. But because I knew that I was getting somewhere with these children, because they even agreed me to enter their home, I had visits, which it was very, very difficult for professionals to visit them, because I didn't have the time to do intense work with them. I told them I couldn't. And then, yeah, so there is to ask for the help. Because if, say, you go to school and you say, you are struggling with the child. And sometimes that's something parents already know, that when they go to school and ask for that help or to say that they are struggling, parents feel that they are already being judged. But who cares? If you go and you are being judged and your child has the support that they need, where is the problem? To me, I see that there's no problem, but people have different ways of judging situations.
Yeah, actually, another thing is this, the way that you cannot treat the children anyhow, you know, like compare it with like how we are treated back home. We cannot treat the children here anyhow. They know, and that you cannot talk anyhow to them, you cannot shout at them. They know all those things. I don't see any reason if a child is not going to school, they just take the parents to court. They have to find out and dig it and go to the house and even put the parents together with the children so that the children can say why actually we can't attend school, we can't do this because of that. We are leaving our home, we're going to school. So those things that are carrying people to court, I really am against it.
Yes, but when I was in writing about that, that was about 10 or more years ago. There was this child meeting that we had, and this she had this teenager who was 15. He wasn't going to school. They took him to an alternative provision, and they required him to come there for 10 o'clock and finish at 2. So he wasn't even doing the full school day, and he still wouldn't go. And they asked him that, you know that you're gonna, mom had a little baby in the hand, you're gonna get your mom into trouble. He said, he didn't care. You, in as much as the parents may engage with the services, some children will be those children who just don't want to go to school. And try as they may, people have to make choices anyway. I believe in like people take responsibility for their actions anyway. They should not put one person's, some parents obviously are negligent. Some parents do not encourage their children. Some parents do not put the things in place to support their children access education as they should. Yes, we know those cases, but we're talking about extreme cases where, you know, sometimes the children, everything is put in place for them and they still would not engage. So it's, like Nelly said, it's about finding out what is then good for that child and seeing if there's an alternative that can be given to that child that is not, because all of these things are still structured. Even those alternative provisions, sometimes they are still structured because they're expected to do things in a particular way. And so sometimes we have to think out of the box.
Yeah, you know, sometimes like, okay, when we focus on academics, not every person is academically oriented. Some people do best hands-on. So if, say, a child does not want to go to school, like mainstream schools, they might want to do some craft. And one thing that I really appreciate in the UK is that there are very provisions that they meet children, that are there to meet children's needs. But again, if they don't take it up, no one will do it for them because they need to do that themselves. But there are various, like you have in the job training or on the job training, you have placements, you have many different types, and not just have to go to school, get your GCSE, no, they have different ways that you can still achieve higher qualifications without following the standard educational system.
Yeah. Right. Thank you, ladies. I think we have, I'm not sure if we've really given this topic justice. We have looked at provisions for our children. We've looked at how we grew up, the kinds of schools and the orientation we had in choosing our subjects or lack thereof. We've looked at the discipline that we faced. We've looked at the kind of punishments that we were meted when we did something wrong, both at home or in school. And one thing that we didn't, that person brought up about punishment in school and at home. Another thing in African society is that anybody can punish a child. So if you do something wrong in school and you get punished, the teacher tells your parents that this is what has happened, you get double punishment. or just tell the teacher that, look, punish them, deal with them anyhow, you know. And sometimes teachers are given the permission to maltreat people's children, because all the teacher is going to say, tell their parents that, oh, I punished them because of this. They're not going to tell you exactly what kind of punishment was given, or how long, or if they missed classes because of the punishment and things like that. So sometimes we have to be careful the kind of authority we give to other people concerning our children. And thankfully here, there are things in place to stop children being falling into the wrong hands, although obviously bad things still do happen, but more often than not, there's protection in place for the children.
Yeah, you know, just one thing that I want to add is, Pocha said something, you know, like parents feel that they have little or no say over their children when the parents say, when the child says they want something. I mean, because I'm very curious. So I asked one of the parents that I worked with, I said, how has it come to this level? And she blamed the government, that the system, they feel disempowered, that the system has given more rights to the children, and they're the parents, they don't have any right over their children. So then the children threaten the parents that if they don't abide by or give them what they want, they'll go to school or go to wherever and say that they've been maltreated or things like that. So parents, to an extent, feel that they have little or no right over their children. But that will not be something that will go into today, because we've already gone over the time. And I just want to say, Aqua, thank you so much. And most especially, Pocha, thank you so much for being with us today. And if you want to be one of our panel members, please contact us. And if you have a topic that you'd like us to talk about, contact us as well and share that information with us, and we'll get back to you. So if you want to find out more about us, you can, oh no, before we go to that, I'll say, Pocha, one last word before we finish, please. Just one last word to our viewers before we finish.
Oh, it's a pleasure joining people in the panel. I mean, it really educates. I mean, everybody, if you listen to it, you'll get some points, that things that you didn't know about, which is part of education. It's never too late to learn. That's it.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
okay.
Another thing is, next week, because we look at 3 points, we were going to talk about 3 points, but we focused on one, telling us that there is so much to talk about in the next couple of weeks. So next week, we're going to focus on friendships and social interactions. Yes, Nelly, go on.
Okay, thank you so much. So to find out more about us, visit us on our website, which is www.hanhancommunitycic.com. I'll say it again, hanhancommunitycic.com. You can follow us on Facebook, Hand in Hand Com. That's our Facebook name. And it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day and see you next week. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.